rinse my feet. I walk out, I'm able to carry your peace. It reminds me of a song that I heard long ago. Maybe I've always known that you were right there. A simple melody playing over and over in my dreams. But somehow out of reach, eluding me until I release. You come close to me when I release, and I let you take the lead when I release. My heart starts to see when I release. When I release, you said, "Come to my garden, eat from my tree, step in my river, let it take you deep. Your heart is my temple, your tears rinse my feet. You walk out, you're able to carry my peace. It's an ancient sound heard from the ones who came before, and now it's here once more to pierce your soul. A simple melody playing over and over in your streets, like a whirlwind turning things, tearing up the dark. That's where I release, and my heart starts to sing when I release. I let you take the lead when I release. You come close to me when I release. When I release, it's all in your feelings. It's all how I receive your sound. All in your feelings, your emotions, they find me out. It's all in your feelings. It's all how I receive your sound. All in your feelings, your emotions, they find me out when I
3, 2. What is up, everyone? We are live and we are in the building. Shout out to everybody who is watching. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Rumble, make sure you share that video, like the video. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I see y'all jumping in. What up, Jordan, on Instagram? I see you, brother. Everybody, we're going to talk about some things. We got cannibals running the show in Haiti right now. We got zombies running the show in America right now. We got Andrew Tate getting arrested again. We got a lot going on. Make sure you stay tuned. Share this video. Hit the like button. You are watching Young Lion TV.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding. Young lion.
That's right, Young Lion TV. Like we do every Tuesday night, we come live in the Lion's Den, where I got my brothers with me to talk about what's going on in the world, talk about some cultural things, talk about some scientific stuff that we've seen that is interesting to us. And if you're first time tuning in, understand that we are just a group of men that love each other and love our communities and love God. And we want to see change in culture. We want to see change in politics and people's mindsets. And we want to help younger men not make the mistakes that we made as kids. So we started talking about these things on the podcast and sharing it with people around the world. So if that's something you can get behind, make sure you hit that like button, share this video, and also don't forget you can go to our Patreon and become a member over there. Sign up for as little as $3 a month. You can support the Young Lions, become a part of the Pride, support what we do. We also have merch available, all that good stuff. But that being said, I am one of the hosts here, and I am going to do my best to navigate these waters of this podcast that we do. My name is Jamie Evans, and I'm here to guide things tonight. And of course, if you're looking at the screen underneath of me, he's the coolest Asian in the podcast game. His name is Simone Chang.
Am I?
Gang, gang. And of course, sitting on the other couch, on the other chair, we got the most confusing man in the podcast game. He looks black. He eats Indian. He's Trinidadian. And he has the Spanish last name. Mr. James Garcia is in the building.
That's how you get introduced.
He's probably gonna have a lot to say about them Haitians. You know how them island people don't get along. And we got my big brother, but he's everybody's big brother. He's the preacher, the teacher, the people reacher, Mr. Jacob Eugene Evans III. I don't know what that pose is.
Exactly.
I don't know what that pose is.
Exactly. You know, it's the awkward pose.
The awkward pose. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, holding down the production for us. We love her so much. She is the best boomer learning how to produce. She is our mother, Miss Angelique Lopez. And we did not fix your camera angle today. So sorry about that, Mom. We'll get that straightened out for you.
Also a conspiracy theorist.
Yo, she is. I mean, we had to pull my mom from the brink of QAnon a few times.
Because sometimes we're so conspiracy, but then we like, hold on, mom,
come
going
back,
too
mom.
far.
You can't just you can't be sharing
Mom, we
everybody's posts on Facebook.
That's why we always say, what website did you get that off of?
Yeah, right.
That's been a while, so stop it.
Yeah, but we just telling the truth around here. Oh, my phone ringing. So again, guys, this is our podcast, Young Lion Podcast. Shout out to everybody who is watching on the different sites. I see Brendan. Shout out to Brendan. Hey, guys, how's it going? James
What up?
says hi. What's up, James? He
James.
said, just getting done soccer. And shout out to Jeff. He said, hey, everyone, everywhere I look is the Young Lions. That's right, man.
It is.
That's what we're trying to...
Jeff rocked the beat.
That's what we're trying to make happen in the world. Everywhere you look is young lions. You know what I mean? Young lions out here trying to catch prey and learn how to devour the darkness. Also, guys, I got to tell you about the merch. If you want to go support and buy some of the merch, you can see the hat here, the Young Lion hat. We got mugs, we got all kind of stuff on the merch store. Go to the description and click the link over there to support in that way as well. Also, if
Grateful stuff coming soon.
Grateful stuff is already up there. The
How come I
Grateful
don't-
stuff
how
is
come-
already available on our store. Bro, I don't play around.
I click on the link tree and tried to get some.
For the Young Lion link tree,
Yeah,
you got to look on the Jatan link tree.
Jatan, come on,
because
man.
that
Can
is-
we put it up? Can we put it
because
on that too?
That is Jatan merch. That is not Young Lion merch.
We were
Dumb,
talking about
dumb.
crossover though.
We will cross them over, but for the time being, Jatan Grateful is a Jatan song, right?
Right.
I mean, Young Lion is too, but Grateful is a Jatan song, so it is available on the Jatan merch.
I also
site.
was looking for the dad hats. I need a new black Young Lion dad hat.
Couldn't
because
find
that's-
it?
That's the only size. They only have the,
So
the,
that
the Memphis
is
bleak,
because
the Memphis bleak hat.
that is because of the when I set up the merch store for the new Grateful t-shirts, I had to remove the Young Lion stuff. So we will do a crossover on there. But let's Mom, can you pull up this this right here? Let's pull the merch store up so you guys can see.
I like
the,
that. That's Jake right there. I love.
that is the Grateful. This is a unisex, so I know it looks like a women's. Oh wait, no, this one's not unisex. Let's go back to the.
I was about to say that looks like a girl fit.
Here we go. There we go. This is the white moon right here. Except he got more facial hair than you. But yeah,
I can't grow nothing.
But that's the Jatan. That's going to be the crew t-shirts when we on tour.
Click on that one. The pink color. That looks.
When we're
That's
on
the salmon color.
salmon. When we're on tour, that's going to be the what the crew wears. Well, let me find a Grateful t-shirt.
Ooh, I like that one.
Which one? The baseball shirt?
The baseball.
Yeah, that's your style too.
Yeah, that's a Chang shirt right
That
there.
is a Chang shirt. The baseball shirt there. Yeah, it took me a lot of time to put all these things together.
The hoodie looks good too.
Go get some Grateful
Let's
merch.
let's see the this
Ooh,
is
got tank tops.
yeah, we got tank tops, we got girl little crop tops. Here's the hoodie. There's the hoodie right there. Yeah, all different colors. There you go, Moan.
That's pink.
There you go. That's pink. Yeah, $24.50. Not a bad price.
That is not a bad price at all. That's cheap.
And
as heck.
that's premium. That's the premium quality hoodie. That's not the cheap one. So, if you guys want to support,
Send me the link, man. I'll go get one.
yeah, I send it to you. Yeah, man, that's what we're doing, man. We're trying to.
Your t-shirt you have on, your shirt you have on now. Yeah, your t-shirt.
I mean, you can kind of see it. Young Lion.
Yeah, he's working out. What's
Matches
up?
the hat. Do my
He
thing,
working out more than
do
me.
my thing. Do
Get
my
that
thing.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the Back to Life t-shirt.
that's little Jakey.
Yeah, man.
It's my favorite one.
All right, but anyway, man, shout out to you guys. Make sure if you're watching on Rumble or any of those other platforms, make sure you guys drop a comment in there. Shout out to our Black Batman who's not in the building right now. We miss you, man. We haven't seen you in a while. Stan Golden, he is one of the other young lions. We haven't seen him. So shout out to him. Hopefully he's watching right now. Make sure you drop a comment. Say hello to the peoples in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, drop some comments in Facebook, please. All the people, hit us up. Join in on the conversation. Share this video. That's the best thing you can do. But without further ado, we're going to talk about some. We're going to get into some.
Can I?
Go ahead.
You made me think about something.
Okay.
When
That's what I try to do around here. Yeah.
You had mentioned, how all the islands they don't like each other, and I thought about that, and it's like culturally, Asians don't like each other.
Yeah.
I know Nigerians and Ghanaians, they beef with each other.
Right.
Spanish people,
Yeah.
they beef with each other.
Yep.
Why do we beef with each other?
Because
like
we
that?
are a tribal people. We are a tribal people by nature, and we
all do.
always want to sit in our pockets of identity and take claim over who's better than the other. Because even like Indian people and Pakistani Bangladeshis. Like they all have their little beef. North
Total
India,
territory.
South India. Like they all beef with each other.
They do it in Europe too.
They do.
The French don't like the English. The English don't like the Germans. They do it over there too.
Yeah.
Too much.
Speaking of the French, did you guys did you watch that thing I sent y'all today?
from our conversation pre-podcast. Jeez, I saw you sent it, but it was like, you know.
Apparently, there's a huge investigation about Macron's wife being a man,
And an old one at that.
an old man. that there's no link to his past at all or her past at all. They put out some fake picture and tried to claim it was her, but it was her daughter. It's a whole mess over there. People are protesting over there
But how she have a daughter? How he?
because apparently, I mean, you can be a man and have kids.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, we don't know any of this,
Right.
You know,
And they can't find her ex-husband anywhere. He disappeared.
yeah.
They can't find any traces of her life before.
The
you
good
know.
old fishing trip.
Yeah.
Going on a fishing trip.
Such a weird.
So there's no family at all.
Yeah.
They don't.
No.
They don't.
Well, he's what, 47?
He's 47 and she's 78.
Right.
Yeah. That and she started dating him when he was or met him when he was a teenager as one of her students in art school.
Right.
And like pretty much groomed him.
It would make sense if it was America, but not in France.
Nah,
These American teachers do go after the young ones.
oh man, it's just a crazy story.
It's
It's
crazy.
so bizarre. But apparently it's not like the Michelle Obama story here. It's like the journalists are doing a full on investigation over there with
Plus, there's like a protest with the farmers. I
there's
think?
protests
Right.
out there. People are wearing wigs to protest the fact that they believe this is a man. Yeah. Hey man.
Too much.
So go on over there and get you a croissant. Croissant. But yeah, in the American side of things, did you guys watch any of the State of the Union?
That's all. I saw clips of the circus.
Yeah, I saw clips myself. I couldn't.
To me,
bear it.
to me,
I just go ahead.
Go ahead.
from what I saw, is like Marjorie just saying stuff. It's like
It's a whole clown
it's a
show.
whole clown
It's
show
a whole
from both sides.
clown.
Mumble fest.
It's all there to give you this illusion that government is working.
Yeah.
And it's all just nonsense. And it's kind of devolved into just worse and worse nonsense. Marjorie Taylor Greene shows up in a big Make America Great Again hat with her vest and all her pins on it like she worked at Fridays in 1997. They all then the other ones in solidarity always wear their white to make a stance, and then every 2 seconds everything he says they have to stand and clap to pretend like he said something amazing that his speech writers wrote, that he's reading off of a teleprompter, that he
Barely.
barely, because I remember Tim Pool talked about it the next day, and they had someone tallying the amount of times he slurred words, and it was like over 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
Within that speech.
Yeah, of course.
And they were being generous. Like they weren't, if he said something slurred, but they knew what he meant to say, they didn't count it. But it was just like when he said incoherent stuff. And then the next day you watch all the punditry and The View and Morning Joe, and they're all just saying, this was a powerful performance. He was up there. He was like Eisenhower. This was his comeback speech. Like they're trying to sell the people that,
Right.
you should vote for this guy because he is amazing now.
I didn't watch it, but did the Speaker of the House really? Somebody told me he kept making like rolling his eyes and stuff.
I don't know. Even if he did that, that's all performative as well. I mean,
think
Nancy
so.
Pelosi ripped up the speech after that. Like that was such a joke
Yeah.
when she did
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting? Bill Maher. Like, I think it was when he had on Patrick Bet David,
Yeah.
and he brings up governor of
Newsom.
California,
Gavin Newsom. Yeah.
and he's like, the fact that he's championing him
Yeah.
in a very,
He sees nothing wrong with him.
but it's in like a very superficial way.
Yeah.
It is.
The fact that he's doing that and he doesn't realize that he's doing it, and it's like, bro, but it's not about any of that. Like, it's about look what he's done to California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not even paying attention to any of this.
But it
stuff?
does. The problem is it doesn't affect him. He's in such of an elite bubble,
Right, but
that
that's
he-
my point. Like he's so detached from
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but he's really not because of the stuff he talks about. Like a lot of these
The
gender
woke,
policies,
the woke stuff.
Yeah, that affected him
Yeah,
because of the jokes, the comedic stuff.
Right.
but a lot of the stuff, his country, because it's like another
Yeah.
country. His state is the one champion all this,
Yeah.
all these
they're passing legislation. For all these
legislation,
things,
yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, it's interesting how that's how detached they are from reality.
Dude, this is how detached Bill Maher is. Like over the last show that he just had, he made a statement where his dream ticket would be Joe Biden and who's the chick that just dropped out from the Republicans?
Nance.
Why can't I think of her?
Haley?
Nikki
Nikki
Haley.
Haley.
That would be his dream ticket.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Yeah, I think Bill is performing.
You don't think he means what he's
I
saying?
don't think he means what he says.
I think he's performing on his show, but when you listen to him on his podcast, I think he really does not know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
No, I think he has
His
I mean,
emotions comes out.
It could be, but I think he's still a performer.
Yeah.
So I think to be relevant in this space, you kind of have to be, because even when he's talking to people, you're like, surely you don't think he always starts off by questioning their why they would do something. Like he has that thing, and then he brings on Robert De Niro,
Yeah.
who goes on a rant, and he doesn't question anything.
He doesn't push back against anything. Yeah.
And he makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of making no sense, let's
Cue it up.
let's show a clip from the this is one of the defining moments of the State of the Union address, because this went on for the days where he had to actually apologize. It was the moment where he was talking about the border, right? And we knew that they were going to try to come after him for the young woman that was killed while she was jogging by an illegal, the girl Laken Riley. Remember, we talked about this on the podcast a few weeks ago. We
Called
showed
her Lincoln. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So, the funny thing is he's talking about it and they start shouting at him, especially Marjorie Taylor Greene, say her name.
Right.
So he can't remember her name. So he's like, you'll see. I'll commentate as he.
I'd be a winner. Not really.
Look, he's searching around for the pin. So if for context, he hears them heckling him, and before, when he was walking up to the podium, Marjorie Taylor Greene handed him one of the pins that she had that had her name on it. So she gave him a pin, so that he would know her name. You know what I mean? So as he's talking about the border, they start heckling him, and you could see him like getting frazzled. Let's watch it again, and then you'll see him fumbling around to find this pin so he can remember her name, and he still messes it up.
I'd be a winner. Not really.
Look.
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln
An innocent
Riley.
young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself.
So that clip kind of like sparked a whole bunch of outrage the next day. Now I want to pose this question to you guys, knowing
Hold up.
what.
I heard it before. What exactly did he say, and what do you think he meant? Like, what about the hundreds or thousands that are killed by legals?
He said illegals.
Mm-hmm.
He said illegals.
So
He's not supposed to say illegal.
So he just totally messed that.
He went
whole
off
thing.
script.
He went off script
Yeah.
because he wasn't.
It was
because he
the
was
woman that was killed by an illegal.
Right.
But how about the thousands that are killed
By
by
legals.
by
Citizens.
illegals. Yeah.
legals?
Because they're
Yeah,
doing that.
that's what he meant.
There's
Right.
a wordplay,
Legal.
but he messed up
No,
by
no.
saying legal.
Yeah, he
legal.
said legals there, but so that's what I was gonna say to y'all. Like with that whole exchange, the next day there was a huge controversy over this. But what do y'all think the controversy was over?
Him saying the word
Nobody
illegal.
is illegal.
Exactly.
Yep.
he got huge
Yep, and that's supposed to try to
pushback
carry. Yep.
from
Not
the
her
left.
death.
Nothing about how
her.
he messed her name up
Or
and
even
couldn't
that she
remember her
died.
name, and not the fact that she died.
Yeah.
The fact that he said
Illegal,
illegal,
yes.
that she was killed by an illegal. That language is forbidden on the left.
Yep. Can't say that.
So he got in huge trouble about that. He actually had to come out and do an interview, a softball interview, where they gave him a scripted, thing to say as the comeback for that. So let's play that
During
real
your
quick.
response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal
Oh, it's crying
when
guy.
talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. And look,
So he had to correct it. He had to apologize. And even further on in the interview, he says he regrets saying illegal. Right. So nothing in this interview about Laken Riley. Nothing. They didn't ask him if he knows her name, if he could prove that he knows her name, that he cares, or what's the statement to the family. So essentially, the whole reason for this interview was for him to apologize to the killer, or
Getting it wrong.
for getting it wrong and calling him an illegal.
To the killer, and he's breaking all these laws, and it's just whatever.
But it's just the
disrespect.
insanity of the fact that there's more
The
onus.
offense.
There's
Yeah.
more offense and onus on the fact that he needs to correct what he called the illegal person who killed her, rather than correct the fact that he said her name wrong.
But this ideology can only thrive in privileged places,
Yeah.
because it's not going to thrive in places that are in poverty.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, they don't care about illegal in that way, or undocumented illegal. No, they shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
They're taking our housing, they're taking our jobs, that's what people care about, right?
Well, they broke the law to be here.
But that's the point. So now we're giving them money. We're
Yeah.
giving them tax dollars. So that's going to be the divide on the left.
Right.
That's my point, is that the left you're seeing the fracturing of the left in play, like at this very moment.
Especially over this border stuff. Yeah.
And not only that, but the partnership is between the media and politicians, and what you're seeing is the changing of language to suit a narrative that they want to set forth. So if you get the president apologizing on using the word illegal,
Yeah.
instead of the scripted word, which was undocumented or asylum seeker,
What is it now? What was it? Something about citizens, undocumented citizens, or something like that.
right? So this is how language has changed. This is how slowly they force people by watching stuff like this to adapt a certain language and a certain cadence, so they don't offend, and you get comfortable, because then you will correct, and people will correct you and finger wave at you.
Yeah.
If you say illegal, no, they're not illegal, they're this. And so if you get the president doing it, then who are you, a regular citizen? Then you don't have the right, because the president apologized, so you're not bigger than the president, are you? So I think you're watching the partnership with the media and the president, because that's really who got on him, is the media. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like they're the ones,
machine.
You're right. They're and them sitting down with him to give him a chance to explain himself. They're bringing it up for a reason. Like you said, they're not even mentioning this young lady's death.
Yeah.
They're mentioning her family. They're focusing on that, the verbiage, because that's what they care about, is changing that language so you soften up and you don't see anything wrong with it. Because if they change it from undocumented illegal to asylum seeker or undocumented, then it wouldn't seem that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Until it affects you personally.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then the math is not mathing anymore.
Right.
And that's the thing. Once people start, hold up, like everybody's good until it affects them.
Right.
That's the thing about the fallen nature of man. Like, because we gotta like we were talking about, how people are so divided in the Caribbean. Why are we so divided? Because it's the fallen nature of man.
Yeah.
That's like the bottom line
Yep.
of it.
Right.
Not about racism. No,
Yeah.
I think people become racist or prejudiced because of our nature.
Yeah.
Right. So now you start to internalize it. You start to look at, well, what am I getting? What is my family getting? What is my tribe getting?
Right.
Right. That's what it becomes.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing now, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of divide happening because they're pushing a narrative, but only certain tribes are going to accept it. Only certain people are going to accept it.
Right. Which is why you see, when you see presidents and political candidates running or they're campaigning, they try to show them as everyday people.
Yeah.
Like running, you caught me jogging.
Right.
Let's have a conversation.
Right. Remember the sleeve rolled
the
up?
sleeve rolled
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's all
pumping,
optics.
pumping
It's-
the gas.
Yeah,
and
it's
not
all
not
optics.
paying for it.
You caught me biking in a park.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like they try. It's
Every
it's-
time they're out there with the blue collar workers, they
Right.
take their tie off.
They only do
Yeah.
that during election season,
Yeah.
where it's like when they're running, they're campaigning, you catch them off guard. But like he was saying, they're not worried about this because most of these people, these undocumented illegals,
Yeah.
all of them, they're not living in their neighborhoods. They wouldn't even get close to it.
You know what's crazy is you're mentioning all those tactics, all those analytical things that they do with like candidates and presidents, and they can't do none of that with Joe.
No, he
It's
messes it up. He
always
falls
a
off the
risk.
bike.
He's biking, he falls, he's running, he trips, he can't walk.
He goes to the wrong
can't remember
person.
stuff. He's talking to the wrong people.
They can't do none of that with Joe, and then Trump does none of that.
Right.
Trump is just Trump.
Yeah, he's him. No
And then
matter
they're
what.
mad because he doesn't do those
Yeah,
things.
right. They're mad because he's not playing the game.
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to our boy Jordan, our guitar player. He's watching on Rumble. He said hashtag Changang.
Jordan.
And he said make sure the producer's mic is on. It was left off last week, I think. It wasn't left off. This is what I'm going to say. Her mic is low because I'm getting a terrible noise from her mic cable that I need to switch out, and I keep forgetting. So when I turn her mic up, I get this loud buzzing noise in the stream that I'm trying to keep.
Low. My camera's messed up.
Yeah.
Well,
But you never put the camera on yourself, so you might as well.
that's how you guys do it.
Yes, well, you never put it on yourself when you talk, so we about to remove your whole camera.
Shout out to Emma, too.
Shout out to Emma.
What up, Emma?
Yeah, so we had that with the State of the Union, and then people were outraged. And then we want to talk about the how great of a job he did. This is his recap. This is a little bit of his recap of after the State of the Union when he wanted to talk with his wife. Just look at his wife's face as she's like praying. You can see her like in her brain saying, "Just spit it out."
And what they're going to do is to ensure a national, really endanger our national security. They're going to expend, are they going to expand personal freedoms? Well, that's what we're going to do. And, well,
Dude, it's so
Dude,
bad.
was this live?
This wasn't even live.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow. And he told on himself in that. Like,
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do.
That's what we're gonna do. Like he can't. So that's how so many people are saying like they must be shooting this dude up with so much, like the amount of sleep he must get, and then they just like whatever they're pumping him with before he does that speech, just so he can make it through.
Yeah.
And the bar has been set so low now for performance of a leader. It's insane. I saw Candace Owens on PBD's podcast with Cuomo. And they had this huge back and forth because Candace Owens was making the point that Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin actually showed people around the world what a competent leader looks like.
Yeah.
And the fact that this dude could do a whole hour of the history of Russia from the 8th century, you know what I mean? And then all the way to the current president, and then continue on with poignant answers, knowledge, like, he was sharp.
25 years in.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, she wasn't saying that this is a great guy.
No.
She's just saying,
I think
like,
you'll miss that kind of stuff.
look at the
Yeah.
contrast between what type of leader he is as far as intellect and what we're dealing with.
But Cuomo hit on a huge thing. I'm not talking about what came out of his mouth. Well, in a way, I am. But what I'm saying is that the problem with like the moment she brings up Putin, right? You can't give people credit without. You can't like. There's people got equity messed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They got partiality messed up. Like people think that because I say, you know what, you're right. that I agree with everything else you say.
Yeah.
What they said, like if sometimes on here, like we bring somebody up,
Yeah.
and then somebody's mad at us because why did you talk about them?
Right.
Like, because they had a good point.
Do you know that they do this or they
Yeah.
do that? Yeah.
Because they have a good point.
Yeah.
Because they spoke the truth.
Right.
You got to honor that, whoever it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think people become they love polarizing thing, where they just want to act like no evil. You know,
Right.
Trump. What was it? Orange man bad?
Orange man bad.
Right. That same mentality.
But the fact that these leaders, and I just got to make a pun for Jordan real quick because I know he's going to love this one. You said Chris Cuomo hit on a big thing. That's what got his brother in trouble. Hey! No, but the fact that someone could sit there for 3 hours and answer questions, you know, sit there in an interview with Tucker Carlson, answer questions. You watch Trump on the podcast that he's done, the interviews that he's done, like
Commanded the interview.
and like people are not going easy on him. They're trying to kill this guy with questions, and he handles it.
Yeah.
And when we dealing with Biden, this is what we get. Bring this up, Mom, because this is the contrast right here. After every single press conference, what do? They usher everybody away. They say, "Don't ask no questions." This is Biden's response, right?
I better not start the questions. I'll get in trouble.
What's your message for Super Tuesday voters? Everyone, please move this way. Super Tuesday.
You see that?
Yo,
He said
he didn't even say it as a joke.
He
dude.
said first he said there's a lot of questions, and then he said I better not start the questions. I'll get in trouble. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's telling himself.
He's telling on himself, and it's not the only time he
Take any questions?
Look, let's watch it.
Anyway, am I allowed to take any questions?
Am I allowed to take any questions? And you see how like
Laughing like it's nothing.
no people laugh to cover it up. It's almost like this awkward
Yeah.
laughter.
Definitely not leader.
Yeah.
Definitely not leader. And you know, it's funny because like with the Russia, Putin and Tucker, even when Putin is addressing him, Putin is addressing it in a certain way. And I know you don't want to talk about that, but
Yeah.
I'll give you this.
Right.
He's doing it in
Right.
I'm going to establish. I know you don't care about this. Now he doesn't know Tucker, but he's doing it in such a way to say I'm going to control.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
I tell the story.
Right.
Then there's a new guy. I forgot his name. Jamie's gonna help me out here. Is it Ecuador?
The El Salvador,
Salvador.
president. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has taken it to a whole nother
Yes.
level.
Yeah.
Because what he does is he basically he says, "Listen, we followed the Western world's ways. We followed the war on drugs philosophy. We followed." A liberal
the European
mindset. Yeah, we
philosophy.
follow that. Yes,
Yeah.
we follow the Western / Europeans, and it didn't work for us.
Yeah.
our city, we had the most dangerous society, and we decided to take matters in our own hands. And he does that. What he does, though, that a lot of politicians here are afraid to do, a lot, is he calls out how the media's involvement. Like,
Yep.
you will tell us this is wrong, but look at your cities.
Because when he first came to power and was voted in, he was highly popular. When
Right.
he came to power, what were they saying? You know, authoritarian ruler gets voted in. He has dictator tendencies, tyrannical approach
Sounds
to government.
Like who else?
But he cleaned up that. He turned that from the most dangerous place in
Yes.
South America, in Central America, in the whole Latin American area, into one of the safest places in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
In a matter of a short period of time. You know,
I mean, what's one of the biggest gangs now?
MS-13.
Yeah, where they start.
Yeah, they started there. Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly where we're going with this next story about Haiti. Because that is the extreme contrast of what you're talking about right here. So, Mom, can you pull this article up? This is from Newsweek. And this just happened, I think this started... Well, it's been happening, and it's been a long, ramp up to this. But in February, I think it was started on February 29th, the day of our show, where it really escalated. And Haiti is in chaos as armed gangs take over the capital. U.S. Embassy staff is evacuated. The sitting... president, the guy who took over after the president, what was his name, Moise, when he was assassinated. Remember, he got assassinated not too long ago.
Yeah.
This guy took over, but the gangs rose to power and started going crazy. Let's see what some of this article says. So the U.S. Embassy in Haiti is evacuating some of its personnel from the nation's capital as rampant gang violence intensifies. Heightened gang violence in the neighborhood near U.S. Embassy compounds and near the airport led to the State Department decision to arrange a departure of additional embassy personnel. The embassy based in Port-au-Prince said in a statement on Sunday. Let's see. So here's a tweet from Ian Miles Chong. He says, Haiti has collapsed. The president is no longer in the country. He fled the country. The ports are officially closed. Cannibal gangs are besieging the National Palace in Port-au-Prince.
Are they really cannibals? Like, because I keep hearing this.
So this is the story, is that these guys use cannibalistic tactics to strike fear into people. So they have, and there is videos. I saw one for myself. I'm not gonna play it on here because and it just popped up on Twitter when this story was going crazy, where it was like it was showing how these people, like the dude was literally, I'll describe it. You see him standing, and there's a fire going on in the street, and then he reaches into the fire and he pulls something out of the fire, and it's literally a foot with a leg attached to it, severed leg, and he rips some meat off of it and starts eating it in front of all these people from someone that he had killed. And this video was going viral. And the guy, the head of this gang, his nickname is Barbecue. That's his name. You can't make this up, bro. But Haiti has completely devolved, and the gangs are in power right now. Like, they have taken over the country. They're asking for the current leadership to step down and resign, or they're going to keep killing people. There's footage here. You could see people fleeing. People are like just being hunted. It's a war zone. It's chaos.
Dang, what's their end goal?
Man, their end goal is they want power over. They want to control it. They want to control it. And the thing is, a lot of people are bringing up the fact that the Clintons, back during when the earthquake happened, how they came in and raised all that money for Haiti, and then did nothing with it.
Never gave it.
I heard that.
This is one of the who is this guy? He's talking. There's a journalist talking about why the Clintons are kind of responsible.
Well, we have every reason to be mad because the Clintons have destroyed Haiti for the decades, and they pretend to be our friends when in reality they are our number one enemies. There are some other people who clearly behave like they don't like us. So it's easy for us to protect ourselves against them because we know they are our enemies. But the Clintons are even more dangerous because they pretend to be our friends when in reality they're destroying Haiti.
Because I heard that the Clinton Foundation and all these other organizations gave over $6 billion to Haiti for the relief effort, especially during the kind of natural disasters that you guys have gone through. Is that true?
No, it's more than true. The money is much more than $6 billion. You see, after the earthquake, countries around the world donate billions of dollars. The amount was much larger than $6 billion. And Bill Clinton was in charge of the money. And not only people around the world, but also American celebrities
Hope for Haiti
a
now.
lot of larger money to rebuild Haiti. And hundreds of homes were destroyed after the earthquake. And if you can believe, the people are still living under tents. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You remember that?
And I have friends. I have a couple of Haitian friends that have told me that they've gone back and none of these people ever got any of those help.
Yeah. I mean, I think they released, like, in some of their tax forms that, like, less than 2% of the money was actually ever even used in Haiti. And the ways that were used was so minuscule and ridiculous. So you're seeing the extreme opposite of when you don't take the approach of, like, the president from El Salvador. I want to show this quick breakdown of someone laying out Haiti's how they devolved. This was pretty good. It says this is from Bad Ombre on Twitter. It says Haiti is in the news. So here's a quick timeline of Haiti since 2009. Notice Hillary Clinton is featured prominently. 2009 Secretary of State Clinton makes Haiti a top diplomatic priority. In January 2010, a devastating earthquake that claims 220,000 lives decimates Haiti. The Clinton Foundation raises $30 million for Haiti relief that goes largely unaccounted for. November 2010, Hillary Clinton endorses Michael Martelly, but he comes in third place and does not qualify for the runoff election scheduled for March 2011. January 2011, Hillary Clinton travels to Haiti, meets with the president, Preval, and threatens to cut off aid if Martelly is not on the ballot. You see, interfering with other countries' elections.
Yeah.
Damn.
Celestine is dropped from the ballot and Martelly is placed on the ballot. So threatening to cut off funding to a foreign country if they don't put the person on the ballot that you want on the ballot. 2011 to 2016, Martelly administration is plagued with corruption scandals, mainly centered around accepting bribes in exchange for construction project deals that never materialized and working with criminal gangs to commit human rights violations. We know many stories of a lot of the human rights violations with kids that got smuggled into the U.S. Some of them are connected to the Clinton Foundation in Hillary Clinton's camp.
And a couple people have reported and magically died too.
And ended up dying magically. 2016, Martelly resigns and flees to Florida a week before his term is set to expire. Not suspicious at all. June 2016, the results of the special election are annulled after an audit found extensive voter fraud. November 2016 to 2020, Jovenel Moïse wins new election. He begins enacting agrarian reforms, establishing free trade zones, fighting corruption, and arresting narcotics and human traffickers. July 7th, 2021, 6 months after Joe Biden takes office, 28 foreign, mostly Colombian mercenaries storm the presidential palace and assassinate President Moïse. So Moïse was in the process of trying to clean up the country. Who knows what type of corruption he was going to uncover, right? So he gets assassinated in 2021. We all remember the story. We talked about it here on the podcast. He got assassinated. And there was, rumblings and stories about his wife being involved in it. July 7th to 21st, 2021, departing Prime Minister Claude Joseph takes over as president for 14 days, but stands down in favor of Ariel Henry, who was supporting the United States. 2 days before his murder, Moïse had chosen Henry to be prime minister. 2021, gangs began carving out the nation's capital in Port-au-Prince. February 2024, Claude Joseph and Moïse Wodo are indicted for plotting Moïse's assassination. So they got indicted for plotting the assassination. March 2024, Henry travels to Kenya to sign an agreement for 1,000 troops to help restore order in Haiti's capital, but is unable to return home due to security concerns. Henry remains stranded in Puerto Rico as warring gangs wrestle for control of the government, with human flesh-eating gang leader Barbecue poised to take over. So that's the timeline they're on right now. And you can see how the Clinton influence is all over this. Now, I saw this other video from back in the 90s with Bill Clinton that a lot of people don't know about, that is pretty much like what sent Haiti in a spiral. Apparently, there had been policies in place since the 1980s. And a lot of these policies, this video is Bill Clinton coming out and apologizing for the policies that they had been putting in place that enriched people here, but pretty much destroyed the economy in Haiti. Because what they did was they started subsidizing our farmers to provide rice and grain for Haiti. But what that did was that put all of their farmers and their rice workers out of business and destroyed their economy.
Yeah, sure.
So this is Bill Clinton coming out and apologizing for that.
since 1981, the United States has followed a policy until the last year or so we started rethinking it, that we rich countries that produce a lot of food should sell it to poor countries and relieve them of the burden of producing their own food. So thank goodness they can leap directly into the industrial era. It has not worked. It's maybe been good for some of my farmers in Arkansas, but it has not worked. It was a mistake. It was a mistake that I was a party to. I am not pointing the finger at anybody. I did that. I have to live every day with the consequences of the lost capacity to produce a rice crop in Haiti to feed those people because of what I did. Nobody else.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I remember hearing about that.
Holding himself accountable for something.
but the direct result of that was, but you know why he's holding himself accountable, because he wants to enact some other policy so that they can go into Haiti and now give them a solution.
You have to bring up something,
Right.
So then you can now redirect it,
and then you can seem benevolent and virtuous.
Yeah,
You
and
create a problem and then you bring the solution.
Right, and it is a half-had, to me, it is a half-hearted attempt at an apology, because when you say 1981, he really wasn't a president.
He wasn't, but he was a governor.
He was a governor,
Yeah.
but still, you may have had a play on it, but it's like no one's going to go back that far to blame you. You know what I mean? So you're not going to be held. You're not. I guarantee if it was a legal thing, he would never admit that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I just wanted to point that out because people don't understand, like, what was the obsession for so long over Haiti?
Was rice.
There was a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of resources there.
There's resources. There's diamonds there too, actually.
There's another mineral there that they're after too. I forget what it was, but there's another mineral there. But I want to get into
Vibranium.
I want to get into the last part of this. So speaking of the president of El Salvador and what the state of that country was in. So you guys remember the controversy from during there was a certain orange man who was president that they couldn't wait to write bad articles about all the time. People were leaking information about this guy all the time. We would hear information. We would hear stuff that they couldn't really find evidence for, but they would say they heard someone say it in a meeting, and then it got leaked to the press. There was one thing that got leaked to the press where the president said something about S-hole nations. You guys remember this?
Yep.
S-hole nations. And it was all over the news for weeks.
Remember that.
And included in those S-hole nations was El Salvador. And Haiti was one of those nations. There was a few others sprinkled in, but those were two of the major ones. And he was talking about the conditions of those countries, allegedly, because we don't even know if he really said this, right? But look at the state of those countries now. And I remember there was a whole campaign, just to jog your memories. This was Conan O'Brien's tweet after that whole thing happened. He actually went to Haiti. Pull this up, on, please. He actually went to Haiti and is taking a nice little sip in a resort that's probably heavily gated and guarded from a coconut. And he said, Haiti is truly a beautiful country. Hashtag Conan Haiti. And then he did a whole campaign where they sold T-shirts, where all these celebrities got on board and it said, Haiti is great already. You guys remember this?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I do.
The little campaign they did, because everything was about, making Trump into some kind of idiot and liar. And we're going to prove that Haiti's
good old Bill Maher.
Yep, Bill. You were just talking about Bill Maher. Haiti is great already. You can't just say Haiti is great already. You don't, because you went to a resort and drank from in a nice beach and drank from a coconut and you thought it was beautiful.
But again, this is the partiality issue, that because I hate Trump, now I'm gonna make you look good.
Yeah.
Because of Trump. It's not genuine.
Yep.
There's no genuineness about this stuff.
But my point is, look how that worked out.
Yeah.
Look how that worked out. And look at the guy that they tried to demonize for making his country better. The guy that they tried to demonize as a authoritarian for rounding up all the gangs. Mm-hmm. I remember when those videos went viral of all those gang members, all with their heads shaved, locked up in prison. They were calling this guy all the names in the book. He was the worst.
Yeah.
And now look at that country.
Yeah.
But so we're looking at people. Bill Maher. I said this before. It's the show. It's the surface. It's they want it to look a certain way. It's the optics, right?
Yep.
He admits it. He likes Gavin Newsom because he's charismatic.
Right.
Came out of his mouth.
Right. But even the optics of him in Haiti, right? Mm-hmm. It's the look.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But nobody cares about, like, the thing we talked about this yesterday. It's the hidden things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are important, right? Mm-hmm. It's the hidden things. Mm-hmm. The liver is the weightiest organ, right? Mm-hmm. Talked about that. But yet you don't see the work of the liver in the body, right? It's hidden. So there's so many things that are hidden. Like, and then you hear about all these stories about Trump, like all the things he's done behind the scenes, right? So when he says what he says, you can put context to it.
Yeah.
Right? But when you just take something out of context, it's like, oh, you can change what he looks like.
Yeah. They're not sending their best.
Right.
Mm-hmm. How does that look now? Yeah. Speaking of that, how many Haitians have been coming across the border? We don't know.
And they send them back.
But I'm saying, like, we don't know. They could be, barbecue might be over here.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. But my point is with, like, the president, I don't remember his name, El Salvadorian president.
Yeah. Let's look up his name because we keep referring to him.
Yeah. With Trump, these guys, they're not perfect. These guys,
Nayib Bukele, yeah, that's his name.
These guys aren't perfect, right? They do some things that I probably don't agree. I know Trump does some things I don't agree with.
Yeah, absolutely.
But but looking at people impartially, right? And you're saying, okay, they're holding to these truths,
right?
And it even reminds me of the Declaration of Independence. What does it say?
We hold these truths to be self-evident,
right?
That all men are created equal,
right? So that doesn't mean that every man is equal. It means we're all humans.
Yeah,
we're all created we're equally human,
right?
Right. But we're not equal as humans.
Yeah.
Right? We some men are stronger. Some men are not equal to women. Right. Children are not equal to men and women. So it's different. You have to judge it based off of those things. Mm-hmm. But you can take these things and twist them.
Right. And
this is what's happening over and over again. Instead of us really looking at things and I was talking to you about this? Maybe I was talking to Mom about how, like, you get married. Moan's about to have his official wedding, and in the wedding, it says, if anyone has.
Oh, you were talking to me about this.
Yeah. If anyone has,
speak now, forever hold your peace.
Yeah. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
So your silence is your acceptance.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us have been silent on these things. And this is why we do this podcast. Mm-hmm. A lot of us have been silent on things, and it becomes your acceptance. Yeah. Right? Because if you have a problem with the person that you're marrying, you need to say it now or forever hold your peace. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was really directed. It comes from the Bible. It's really directed to the fathers so that you can uphold your truth, uphold the way you want your life to be and how you want to give your daughter away. Yeah. Right. And who you want to give your daughter to. Mm-hmm. Right. And for us now, if we got something that's going on with us, well, I don't want to say nothing because somebody might point at my stuff. This is what the elites do. Yeah. They hold stuff over. They don't hold truths to be self-evident, right? They hold things that you did. They hold truths. These aren't truths that are eternal truths, yeah, right? Or truths that reverberate throughout time. They're just things that you did that you're ashamed of, right? Right. These are the things that we hold, yeah. And then they're held against us, and we hold them against ourselves. So then we just shut up. We never say anything, right? And we stay quiet. And because what happens? The people who speak up, they're going to get attacked.
They're going to get attacked, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Look at Trump. They're going to get attacked. They get attacked. Why? Because the ones who are devious have to stay in power. The lie can't stay in power if the truth is standing there.
Yeah.
Right? So you have these people who they're standing in truths that reverberate throughout time. Right? That's my point. They're reverberating throughout time. And when they're attacked, many stay silent because they don't want to be attacked.
Right.
They don't. So if you do that, are you standing in the truth?
No.
And how can those truths be self-evident? It becomes a lot harder to see that they're evident.
Yeah.
Right? So then little by little, the things that we call rights, they slip away because nobody wants to stand up for them.
That's a perfect segue into our next topic. Because you're talking about standing in truth and how you're going to get attacked.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into a little bit of Joe Rogan had someone who wrote a book about therapy and psychology on his podcast. We're going to get into that. And Candace Owens had an episode where she was actually talking about, and I mentioned this to you guys, I think off the podcast last week, talking about the origins of psychology and Sigmund Freud and how he started and what was his reasoning for the things that he wrote. But before we get into that, we're going to show a clip of a Harvard professor who was attacked for he did a study where he did ride-alongs with police officers. And one of the places where he rode along was in Camden and some other cities because he wanted to show the statistics of how policing is done towards black people.
He's an economist.
He's an economist, Harvard professor. He's a black guy. And what he found out changed his mind on things. And when he went to go publish his paper, people basically told him, don't publish this. And they started to attack him. So this is a little bit of that interview where he was talking about that. We'll play this. Pull this up, Mom, please.
Look, I saw what was going on with Michael Brown and some of the early viral videos of police violence. I wanted to do something, but protesting is just not my jam. I'm not saying that people shouldn't protest. Go for it. But it seemed hot outside. I just didn't want to do it. And so I thought, I want to do something. And the only thing I know how to do is I'm one of the world's biggest data nerds. So I said, this is going to be the easiest paper I ever write. I'm going to go get some data. I'm going to go show that the police are biased. Finally, people are going to like me. And my grandmother's going to go, you showed that the police don't like black people. Really? What are you doing up there? Right? Like this was I had it all laid out. And then I had dinner with a colleague of mine, and I was telling him about my plan. And he says, you know, Roland, when you work on schools and other stuff like that, you really just are in the schools. And so it's weird for me, strange that you would just download police data and not understand more about the police. He says, I wonder what the police are maximizing. A very econ kind of thing to ask. I wonder what the police are maximizing. And it dawned on me in that moment, I didn't know, nor did I think I cared. So I said, okay, fine. I didn't give him credit in the moment, but I left and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go figure out what police maximize. So I set up ride-alongs in Camden, Philadelphia, Houston, some places in Massachusetts to ride along with the police. Now, back to 1991. I don't like the police very much. I don't.
What had been your experience with the police?
I had been roughed up by the police. I've had guns pulled on me. Mind you, they pulled me over, and I decided it would be a good idea to get out of the car and walk away.
He's honest. Yeah. He's honest.
But in any event, I didn't like their customer service. And so I just didn't like police. They came, they took half my family away. Granted, they were selling a lot of drugs, but again.
I love it. I love it.
Not the greatest customer service. So I was biased against the police. I'm not, that's obvious. I went, and I don't think I've received a better education since my grandmother taught me to read. It's a hard job. And I know that sounds obvious sitting on a stage. It's a really hard job. I am a terrible police officer. After 4 hours, everyone looked like a criminal to me. I don't know if I was hangry. I don't know what it was, but I'm telling you, I'm serious. They were like, you could never be a cop. Because I was like, hey, let's pull over. That kid's got a basketball. I don't like it. I participated in these weapons training things, not real weapons, relax, but like these weapons trainings where there's simulations. And some guy, like I'm in the building, the guy walks out, he's got a baby. I shoot the guy right in the head, and they're like, "What was about the baby?" I said, "Sorry, I didn't see the baby." You know, I was a bad police officer. But what I really did, I'm serious. I realized the job is really hard. It was the end of a 12-hour shift in Camden, and we get a call for a potential overdose in a row house. It's an abandoned building. We bust in. A person dies within 6 feet of me. And it shook me up a little bit. And so I looked at the guys I was with, and I said, "Yo, how about beers on me?" And they said, "What do you mean beers are on you?" I said, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. Do you want me to speak in Greek? I mean, I don't know. It's beers are on me. We should leave here. Let the paramedics take over. We should go. And they said, "We got to go back to work." And I said, "But we just saw somebody die." And the police chief overheard me, and he was incredulous. He says, "Roland, if I gave everybody a break every time someone died, no one would cover the shifts." And I was like, wow, it is a hard job. And so through these experiences, long story short, I collected a lot of data. And those experiences helped me understand what types of data to collect. We collected millions of observations on everyday use of force that wasn't lethal. We collected thousands of observations on lethal force. And the key question, I alluded to it earlier in a bit of a joke, but the key question is not just this arbitrary, silly snapshots that some journalists, not named Barry, do a lot, which is black people are 13% of the population and they are 50% of the police shootings. I'm sorry about that, but I don't know what that has to do with the question, right? And it was in this moment in 2016 that I realized people lose their minds when they don't like the result, right? And so what my paper showed, you'll see tomorrow, like some of you, was that, yes, we saw some bias in the low-level uses of force, every day pushing up against cars and things like that. People seem to like that result. But we didn't find any racial bias in police shootings. Now, that was really surprising to me because I expected to see it. The little known fact is I had 8 full-time RAs that it took to do this over nearly a year. When I found the surprising result, I hired 8 fresh ones and redid it to make sure. They came up with the same exact answer, and I thought it was robust. And I went to go give it, and my God, all hell broke loose.
Tell us about that. What was the...
Oh, I mean, well, your former paper published a report about it, and it was
He's talking about the New York Times. Barry Weiss used to work for them, and she left to do her own thing because she was noticing all the wokeness there, and real journalism wasn't happening. So that's who's interviewing him.
104-page dense academic economics paper with a 150-page appendix. Okay, it was posted for 4 minutes when I got my first email. This is full of shit. Doesn't make any sense. And I wrote back, "How'd you read it that fast? That's amazing.
OpenAI, they had AI do it.
People lost their minds. I mean, it was like colleagues of mine were going, "Well, I don't believe these results. He's using regressions." I'm like, well, what the hell else we've been using? I mean, we've been using them for ever. That's what you use. And I had colleagues take me to the side and say, "Don't publish this. You'll ruin your career." I said, "What are you talking about?"
Now that right there, that is how they control narratives most of the time. The opportunity for career, fame, money, growth, success, that is used. I mean, we watch the CIA talk about, the dude from the CIA talk about that all the time. That's one of the most easiest ways to motivate somebody is with those, with your identity, your ego, you know.
And again, you'll see it's always about, like, what does that do when they say that? It gives you, doesn't give you a perspective, it gives you a
perception.
Yeah. Because it's how you perceive what you're doing and what you're going through. Right. That's what people that's control. Control is always through how you perceive what's going on.
And if he was so stuck to the ideology of, you know, black man oppressed, police bad, he would have skewed this paper to show that in some way.
To show his own perception. Right.
And he would have never published it.
Right.
I said, "What's wrong with it? Do you believe the first part?" "Yes." "Do you believe the second part?" "Well, the issue is they just don't fit together." we like the first one, but you should publish the second one another time. I said, let me ask this. If the second part about the police shootings, this is a literal conversation. I said to them, if the second part showed bias, do you think I should publish it then? And they said, yeah, then it would make sense. And I said, I guarantee you I'll publish it. We'll see what happens.
See,
so
then it would make sense.
Yeah.
That's perception. Then it would make sense to the way I perceive what's going on in this country.
Right. Yeah, but this is a prime example of how experts can be manipulated, and these studies and these results can be manipulated until you get the result you want. The things that are published are not always accurate because of that.
Yeah. This is why people can call something science.
Yeah.
But it's not true science, because science is about observation.
It's about testing.
And right, it's about the testing and observing what happens through testing. But when you are biased, when you are partial, right, and you hold that, now you're going to perceive it the way you want to perceive it.
Yeah, that statement, the science is settled on this. That's the antithesis of science.
Yeah,
that should never even exist. All right,
it was I lived under police protection for about 30 or 40 days. I had a 7-day-old daughter at the time. I remember going and shopping for, because, when you have a newborn, you think you have enough diapers, you don't. So I was going to the grocery store to get diapers with an armed guard. It was crazy. I did not grow up wanting to go to Harvard. I didn't. I really didn't. I wanted to do something. And I, like many others in here, I want to acknowledge that, have suffered a lot of losses in my life. My grandmother's no longer here. My father is dead. I don't know where my mother is. They're all gone. Every single cousin is gone. My favorite cousin, the day he got released out of prison after 25 years, someone walked up behind him and shot him directly in the head. So I have to make this journey worth it. I am here because I want to solve problems. I am here because I have seen so much talent in these neighborhoods, and I know they know bullshit when they see it.
You know what that's called?
What?
What he used to talk? That's called conviction. Right? That's conviction. That's not, because the other thing, that's condemnation. When people are trying to lure you into something, when they're trying to put the strong arm on you. But because he is convicted, right? He has conviction of truth because of the things that have happened around him, the things he grew up in. He's not going to fall for it. He's not going to fall for those other things because he knows, like, that's not important, because he's been through stuff that he holds to these truths. To me, and that's beautiful to me. Yeah. Right? And those people, when, like, I don't know if he's I don't think he is, but the fact that he's holding to that truth of conviction, that's where God is. You know what I mean? Even though you might not know him, if you continue down that, you're going to find him. Right. You know? And those are the things that, even as believers, we need to pay attention to that. Like, if somebody's holding to truths that are truths that stand the test of time, that they're not shy of finding Jesus. You know? He is the truth. Right.
So I'm not going to lie to them. I wouldn't be able to show my face in these places if I told lies to them, like, oh, I heard this result from you. The thing about it is, if you do a result, what has happened with the actual police departments is that because they actually believe the results and they're willing to reform on the lower level uses of force because someone told the truth about the others. And, you know, it's the importance of being thought of someone, of being an actual truth teller is so, so very important. Maybe not in the moment. But I didn't go to Harvard to have Chardonnay at 10:30 in the morning. I just don't want it. It's not my thing. And it's okay if it's someone else's thing. It's just not my thing. I went there to make a difference. Truly, I know that sounds naive to many of you. But as I tell my students, remember when you came to Harvard, you had lofty dreams of changing the world. It wasn't downside risk protection, right? Everybody I know who I've seen walk through those Ivy doors rocks the boat until they get in the boat, and then they say, steady now.
Mm-hmm.
I rocked the boat until I got in the boat, and I said, let's see how fast we can go. And I've fallen out the boat, got run over by the boat. It is what it is. But you got to be for something, right? And so I mean, I actually don't understand those other people. I don't know what they're maximizing.
You're supposed to view Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
I want to say something.
Go ahead.
You know, I appreciate what he's doing. Certainly appreciate it. But I think a big part is, you know, the regular people don't understand what these Ivy League schools and these papers, what's their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It essentially, a lot of times, specifically politicians, when they're done their political campaign, and even before that, sometimes they're chosen from those alma maters and stuff like that. They go and sit on the boards, and funding and all these other things. Like, there's a lot of money that's tied up into that, and there's a lot of clout that's associated with a university. So when these type of studies that he's doing here, he did that sort of independent, right? And it would show that everything that they've been trying to say that has actually happened isn't happening, or not to the extent that it is happening.
Right.
So it would essentially, here's a guy who is affiliated with them is saying, I am finding something that is out of order with what you're telling us. And he becomes an opposition. The reason they're telling him that is not so much, hey, don't do this, because you will ruin your career, but you'll make us look bad.
Oh, absolutely.
That's really
that's why he's going to ruin his career, because what they're going to do is,
because you're going to get punished.
They're going to make you into a crazy person, so that no one will take you seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we as the public, we don't know. We would never be. We're not in that realm.
Yeah.
We're not in that realm. So for a lot of us, it's when we hear, especially if you tune into the news, the sensation, the production. You just showed a picture of Conan O'Brien, basically saying, "This is what this racist, xenophobic president says. I'm going to show something."
Yeah.
But it's a shot of him drinking a coconut. It probably never shows the beach, and it never shows the private resort and the armed guards there. So you the perspective is him in the village. I mean, on the beach. It doesn't show him in the actual village of Haiti
or
walking
in
around.
the city.
He's far from that.
Yeah.
You're in an island. In a tropic,
yes,
we know it's warm.
and it may not even be Haiti for all we know.
Right,
you know,
that's a fact.
But again, even that, like, there's a perspective, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing the picture, but then he's giving you the perception.
So that's what you're tuned in to see.
Yeah,
and because
let's see Conan. I'm sorry to cut you off. Let's see Conan go into the city.
Yeah,
he wouldn't do
shake hands with barbecue.
But going back to these institutions, like if you think about hospitals, if you think about colleges or universities, where did they get their start? Majority of these things were started by people who cared for people. They were started by the church.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people, a lot of these universities were started by the church. A lot of these hospitals were started. These are ideas that came through the church. And they were to care, right? And it was about, to be honest with you, it's about fortification. It's about preventative measures, right? Hospitals, preventative measures. But look at what happens when you start to twist and step away from the reason why they were started in the first place, and you change the reason or your reasoning for having these institutions. What are they about now?
Money, funding.
It's not hard to see that it's the love of money.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And also, like, a huge part of it is for narrative control, idea control, to keep people of a certain mindset. Absolutely.
But over all that is money.
Yeah.
Because it's for money.
Right.
If you can control them,
power,
you can get them
money.
Yeah.
All of that.
You can get them to consume things in the way you want them to consume things.
Right. You keep people you can herd people in any way you want.
Right. And this is the long, they're playing the long game.
Yeah.
They're playing a game where it's a political / economic thing that they're doing. The more they tell people that they need them, for health or for whatever it is, or people are going to buy into that. It just is what it is. It's one of the reasons why the Rockefellers demonized holistic healing.
Yeah.
And went right into...
Well, what did they start doing? They started funding the medical schools to then push a certain way of doing medical care,
And
so
they're
that
gonna
the
give you
hospitals will fall in suit, because all of the medical professionals are going to come out of those universities and completely change the culture in hospitals, so that everything becomes about making money.
Right. And that's where the Christian, though it started by Christians, those institutions was bought out. They kept the name because they already had a reputation, and then slowly changed it over.
Yeah.
To
Our Lady of Lords.
Right. Because if you look at it, it's like, it's all like meant to make you feel that they do care about people.
Right.
Yep. But then it takes people like him.
Yeah.
That'll say, you know what, I'm not going to compromise. You know, I have these, I hold these truths.
Well, he kind of said it like, I'm not here to be in y'all's club. Basically, that's what he was getting at by saying, I'm not here to drink Chardonnay at 10:30 a.m. He's not here to be in y'all's clique.
But why? Because he has something, he has a purpose in mind. He has a reason for what he's doing something that is a truth that is, it reverberates. I always say it reverberates throughout time in terms of how you care for other people.
Right.
He truly wants to love people. Yeah. Right? Now, how you do that, of course, that can, evolve throughout time, right? Because there's a perfect love, right? But if your heart's intent is to do that, it's just like if your heart's intent is to seek the truth, what does it say? You're gonna find it, right? And if you continue on that path, the problem is people can start on that path, but then they get compromised. Like you said, you get in the boat, but then you feel like, oh, this boat
I'm
is...
in here now.
Yeah.
Let me take it easy. I don't want to mess this up.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, let's keep going though, because we played that to set up the next thing that we're getting into. And this is like the foundation of modern psychology, Sigmund Freud, how he became the, most prominent person in that field, the father of it. We've gone into that on this podcast before. We talked about his nephew, Edward Bernays. We just talked about that last week, how he became the father of marketing and all of that. So Candace Owens actually did a pretty good breakdown on her show about the whole matter. So let's play a little bit of that, Mom.
You're supposed to view Sigmund Freud as somebody who contributed so much to the field of psychology and psychiatric care, blah, 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 blah. Well, guys, that is going to bring me to our first Did You Know? Did you know that Sigmund Freud was a homosexual man whose best friend was a pedophile? Okay, you can be upset with me all you want, but that is absolutely a fact, and you should have been able to garner that really just from what he spoke about, what he wrote about. You can obviously understand the themes of children and sex. He was obsessed with it almost. He introduced...
Don't we see this theme so much in psychology? In like a lot of these studies, we talked about John Money. We talked about a lot of these guys who became the idea shapers of what we know about modern psychology and treating children and therapies and all of these things. They're always linked to some weird behavior.
Use concepts of children being sexual at birth, psychosexual development theory, the seduction
children being sexual,
of children and sex. He was obsessed with it almost. He introduced concepts of children being sexual at birth, psychosexual development theory, the seduction theory, all surrounded around children. He had a very strange relationship, you can look this up, with his best friend, Wilhelm Fliess, who, if you're interested in Wilhelm Fliess, sexually abused his own son, Robert Fliess. Now, how do we know this? Candace, where are you getting this fact that wasn't introduced to me via the public education system? Well, I want you guys to look up, if you're interested, this scholar. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Masson, and he was the project director for the Sigmund Freud archives. He was on pace to become the director. He decided to learn German so that he could go through all of those Freud archives, and then he was quite disturbed by what he discovered. He said, wait a second, actually Sigmund Freud is covering up for his pedophile friends. This is the theory of Masson. And guess what happened after that? Masson was dismissed from his role as director altogether. He was dismissed from a person that was allowed to access the archives anymore, despite the fact that he has a Harvard PhD. He's done everything right. Just telling the truth seemed like an act that community was not willing to accept. And
that
he says,
seems like a current theme. Yeah,
there goes that truth for it.
Yeah, it's like telling the truth is going to ruin your career around here.
The archives. If I'm lying, release all of the archives. His theory is that when Freud realized through his work, speaking with children, that a lot of them had been sexually assaulted, and that was leading to their various mental disturbances, Freud presented that information to his peers, and his peers got upset. So imagine you're Sigmund Freud and you go to your peers, all of these other sex pathologists and psychiatrists and psychologists, and you say, hey, just so you know, these kids that I'm seeing, they're disturbed because they were sexually assaulted. And then his peers were like, no, that can't be what happened. Among the peers that were upset with his thesis was renowned sex pathologist Richard von Krafft-Ebing. He was also a psychiatrist, of course. And in case you're interested, he coined the term masochism. Richard also wrote books. He was particularly interested in homosexuality. His book, Psychopathia Sexualis, he published that in 1886. He defined homosexuality as an innate neuropsychopathic disorder, essentially a hereditary nervous disease. And then he took that diagnosis to advocate for the decriminalization of homosexuality, arguing that homosexuals were not responsible for their malformation and that homosexuality was not contagious.
Don't we hear people starting to use that language? I just saw a TED Talk again pop up on Twitter about pedophilia.
Yep. Yes, sir. Because it doesn't, it never stays anything, right? Sin just continues to get worse and worse.
Yep. The same type of language is starting to move, where it's like, oh, we can't criminalize these people.
Yep.
He also wrote about sex and children, sex with children. In his book, General Pathology, in chapter 5, he writes about sex crimes with children and uses the term, actually for the first time, pedophilia erotica. So yeah, it's interesting. And I should also note, because I have a compelling thesis myself, that during this time, yes, homosexuality was criminalized. It was something that was criminalized all throughout a lot of different countries. And so you could understand why men that were perhaps homosexual themselves would be perhaps writing theses to say, actually, none of this is a crime. So what did Freud do after he presents this information and the entire Vienna Psychiatric Society says, no, we don't like this thesis? When all of his friends are going, this doesn't work.
Where do we hear that? Where did we just hear that? All of his friends saying, no, don't publish this. No, we don't like your theory. We don't like your thesis.
Well, then Freud does a complete 180. And he starts blaming the children for their memories, positing theories that children were actually sexual by nature. And then the psychiatric community loved Freud. They were like, oh my God, you're so amazing.
You're a genius now. Oh, children are sexual by nature. We love you. Thank you for this great theory. We're going to push it.
They made him a legend.
Yeah, he's a legend. He's the father of it all.
Right.
Everywhere. This is just so contemporary and thoughtful. It's just groundbreaking. Yeah. So going back to that young gentleman, the Dr. Masson, who was going, hey, I've gone through the archives and this looks pretty bad. This is a cover-up, actually. He, after he gets kicked out, decides to publish a book, and you should read it, called The Assault of Truth. Yeah.
Freud's
he was also then
the
treated horribly by his peers. And by the way, this is in the 1980s. People still were protecting Freud and his legacy. Why? Maybe there's a fear there that the people that created psychology, if you start exposing actually how they were living their lives, maybe the entire field, the psychiatric field, would collapse. Also, another fun fact before we move on to my question number 2, Freud revealed in a letter that his father was also a sexual pervert. Yes. He wrote, quote, unfortunately, my own father was one of these perverts and is responsible for the hysteria of my brother, all of whom's symptoms are identifications and those of several younger sisters.
So his brother was having multiple personality disorder where he was identifying as young girls because he was abused by his own father. And he wrote this in a letter. This is like, we do not get this type of stuff in education.
Yeah.
All you get is why this person is, this figurehead of a certain field of science, and that this person is to be trusted. This is the expert on it all. All of everything that we know to this point is based off of this person's work.
Yeah. And you're seeing, like, because these people were more of the well-off, right?
Yep.
These were the higher society.
Hoity-toities, the elites.
So, but sin is still sin, right? You can't dress it up, because that's what they're doing.
Right.
You can't dress it up. You can't make a man look like a woman, right? Can't dress it up. It's still a man.
Yeah.
It's still sin. It's still the same thing.
Right.
And that's what's going on. They dress it up, make
Macron's
it look,
wife.
make it look like something it's not.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Yeah.
That makes me think of a whole lot of stuff, even in the music. I remember growing up, they used to say P. Diddy was the producer, and then you start
to find out
that he's not.
Yeah.
I don't know if the general public really know.
Yeah.
But you know, we know maybe because we're kind of in, you know, we are in the music industry and we grew up, you know, listening to all that. And
you start understanding that these people are given titles and given certain things,
and it's blown up more than what it really makes me think. You know, even Einstein did he really, you know?
Dude, there's a lot of theories about how Einstein was propped up. A lot of theories, like, because when you look at the accomplishments of like a Nikola Tesla, and we never learned about him.
Yeah.
Like, we never learned about Tesla, but all we heard about was Einstein.
Like breeze through.
Einstein was in every movie you saw about the past. Every time,
jokes about him.
Even like when you think of the image as a child in cartoons of like the mad scientist, the guy who's doing all the science, he's an Einstein type figure. He's like an Einstein-y kind of guy.
The hair is crazy.
Yeah, the outfit is a very Einstein. Nothing was Tesla was ignored. We were to not think about that guy.
Yep. But something I wrote down. But the naive and zealous are always, they're easily, it's kind of like kids. Like, it's easy to focus you on a part or a piece of something, right? Which is what I think happens. It's easy to focus them on the shiny thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
To focus them on, oh, look at that over there.
Yeah.
But then
sleight of hand.
You don't understand what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Right.
You don't know what's hidden, right? And usually it's you know how it says that it's the foolish things
that confound
the wise, right? So a lot of the things that are actually working and doing the work are hidden. And we don't see them.
Yeah.
You know, and even on the other side, like the demonic things are also hidden and you don't see them, but they need you to focus on things that are propped up, right?
Yeah.
People that are propped up. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Look over here.
Yeah, you're giving golden calves throughout your life.
I think this has always been around. I think there's always been immoral behavior, but I think these type of men, though they were publishing this in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I don't think a lot of this took off until the medium of television came along and Hollywood itself and the idea of being famous. Because then all your guard, because not everybody in Hollywood that was going there was essentially weirdos. I think it was people chasing fame and fortune too, and they were willing to sacrifice their children,
right,
or their young daughter or son to be famous because it lend. That's why they needed to make things look glamorous.
Yeah.
So these type of guys, they were around, but I'm sure that probably this stuff wasn't well received at the time.
Yeah.
But when this machine started to really go,
right,
then they figure if we prop these guys up, make them the faces of this thing, and we only publish because these things that she's talking about right now, those are aspects that no one would know until you start really digging. But if we could only publish this part of it,
right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's like she's saying. This is how these institutions get corrupted little by little, right? Who are the ones that are getting pushed into these things, or who are the ones that are gonna go into these things, right? And then when you get those type of people in those places, in these institutions, they're looking to what are they looking for? They're looking to raise up themselves, exalt themselves.
Because if someone has a predilection for children, right, and it's just like the guy we just watched. Like, he went into it with a bias that cops kill black people more than anybody. So I'm going to do this study to prove it, right? But when he found out it was the opposite, he actually still wanted to tell the truth about that. But if someone has a predilection for children and they're in the science field where they're kind of like trying to do these studies to prove certain things, to prove their own identity, and then they get that study and it says the opposite, they're going to be less likely to want to go against that.
Sure.
You know,
there's another aspect too, where if we always focus on the people that are, like the children that are in these type of situation, but we never show children from 2-parent homes, godly homes, that not like when we never show that side. We're just showing one particular side.
Yeah.
So these guys who are studying these children or studying these situations, they're essentially looking for broken home, broken children.
Yeah.
And then they show a pattern, right? But they never show, okay, now that we've done that, like you're saying, this guy here, the professor, he went looking for a specific thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those same professors that have these papers on why society, why the black community or the poor society, they never show, okay, but there was a time when this didn't affect them in that way.
Yeah.
There were two-parent homes.
Right.
We were the lowest in marriage, out of wedlock families. There's a lot that you don't show, and
Blacks
you just
were actually outpacing whites.
yeah,
in a lot
but you
of
don't
ways.
show that. You just
Yeah.
this is just
Right.
glossed over. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like the purpose of a father and a mother in a home, like why that is important. And you just focus on the bad. That's all people are gonna see.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And again, like when you truly want to care for people, you're teaching them how to come into fortification. You're teaching them preventative measures, right? You're teaching them how to guard themselves. When you are looking to yourself, you're learning the art of deception. You're learning, like the guy was saying, the CIA agent, you're learning how to compromise people and how to take advantage of people. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. It's how can, okay, we see they're advancing, but if you have a fear, like with maybe
We're going to be left behind.
yeah, how can we stop it? That's
But when you look at who was in power when they implemented all those things, it was an extremely racist guy. He was the president at the time. You know,
what was his name?
Lyndon Johnson.
Johnson, Great Society.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, what can we do, right? And how can we? It's self beneficial.
Yeah.
It's not true care.
Right.
But then you make it appear like
Right.
right.
It's like providing rice to Haiti.
Yeah.
You know.
And then there's the monetary side too, which is we get to keep these phony baloney jobs because they need we're going to offer welfare, but we need to run the welfare
Right.
program.
Exactly.
Isn't it interesting how God says, "I give you the ability to get wealth"?
Yeah.
So what does God do for us, and what do we do for others? Like, do we raise our kids so that they don't know anything, and so that they can look at us like we're all they'll ever need? Of course not.
No.
Because then they're gonna always have to depend on us.
Some people do.
Some people do.
Some
Well,
people.
a lot of people do, and
Yeah.
this is the issue, right?
Right.
So
Including rich people too, by the way.
Yeah, they do.
Sure.
They want their kid. It gives them a sense of purpose to have their kids need them.
yeah, well, that's the other thing we're gonna go into.
Okay.
In just a little bit,
All
right?
right. Well, let's keep going so we can get through some of these because we got a lot to go.
Yeah.
End quotes. Why is that interesting? Because yes, that was what Freud started terming. He said, "Oh, these children have hysteria. Anybody that tells you that a sex crime happened to them, they're hysterical." Yeah, interesting. By the way, it was also
Anyone?
psychologists and psychiatric people who created or discovered, however you want to view it, however we're allowed to say it, transgenderism via experiments on children. Which, by the way, brings me to number 2 on the "Did you know?" question, because this really blew my mind. Do you know which books the Nazis were burning? So I was shocked that I never learned throughout that schooling
Candace
that
be
the
treading on
Brownshires,
some waters
so
here.
The student activists that went around burning a bunch of books were burning books that they deemed to be Marxist and that they deemed to be overtly sexual. And one of the first and most notorious book burnings was the student-led destruction of the library at the Institute for Sexual Research. That library was founded by a man named Magnus Hirschfeld, and he was the guy who actually first coined the term transsexual. In
Look at this
that
guy.
library, he kept
at this
sexually
guy.
stimulating objects and erotic imagery from non-Europeans. He was particularly and bizarrely interested in the history of sexuality and its deviations in Africa. Was his focus. He had a lot of imagery from Africa, people from African colonies at the time that Germany owned. If you want to refer to a colony, it was a German colony, so to speak. They were interested in watching Africans have sex and photographing that.
Sounds completely normal.
Very weird to me, very disgusting to me, extremely perverse. He and some of his peers took a theoretical approach to age-specific attraction as a purported dimension of either psychical hermaphroditism or psychosexual infantilism. Yeah, so again, you're seeing that concept of children and sex as a psychology. Here's a picture of Magnus Hirschfeld, the director of the Institute for Sexual Research. Yes, he was a homosexual, and this is a picture of him at a costume party that he threw at the Institute for Sexual Research in Berlin. He is the one that is in the glasses, and he is holding hands with his partner, Carl Gies. By the way, now Magnus is hailed as a hero or whatever, and in my view, he's a pervert. Doesn't mean that his library or his institute should have been burned down. There's no excuse for burning down an institute, but we don't then also pretend that somebody that is perverse is somehow a hero. In my view. Am I crazy? Does that turn somebody into a hero? And again, this was a 30-minute video, so it went on and on and on of all of these.
Okay,
really
so this is something else. Let's skip past this.
Okay.
Let's go to the other videos because we don't have to go to that.
Okay, cool. So next we're going to the interview that Joe Rogan did on his podcast with this is Abigail, what's her last name? She wrote the book before. She wrote another book that blew up, and now she's doing a book about psychology and therapy.
Your new book, Bad Therapy, Why Kids Aren't Growing Up.
Yes.
What's wrong with therapy? What are they doing wrong?
You know, they're giving it to kids who aren't sick, who aren't actually struggling with mental illness or disorder. They're giving it to everybody. So what they're doing is they're making existing problems worse, and they're introducing new problems, because therapy has side effects. Just like any intervention that has the power to help, it also has the power to harm.
In what way?
Well, there's a whole body of research on some of the side effects of therapy, and they include things like alienation from spouse, alienation from parents, worsening of depression, worsening of anxiety, feeling of incapacity, feeling like you can't do things without consulting your therapist. All those are well-known iatrogenic effects. Feeling, once you have a mental diagnosis, the labeling, feeling limited by that label. Oh, I have anxiety, I can't. So all those things are.
And this is something that you're seeing like crazy on TikTok nowadays with and it's self-diagnosis thing with people. They want to attribute themselves having some kind of like disorder or something. It's a weird phenomenon.
Yeah. It's not weird because this is the culture.
Yeah.
This is what has been cultivated, especially in middle class.
Right. Middle class to upper middle class.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say this real quick. I was listening to this guy. He has a podcast called We Need to Talk.
Mm.
And he deals primarily with relationships. And he did mention something about therapy that was interesting. He said what he found was a lot of people go to therapy not so much that they can be helped, but they can lean into it. They can learn the terminology.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens?
Weaponize it against their husband or their wife.
So what they're doing is he's like, they're not actually doing it because they actually want to be set free. They're doing it to learn the terminology so it stops you dead in the track from calling them out. And then they can use the terminology that they've learned.
That's why we hear gaslighting so much now.
Right.
That's one of those terms that women always learned in therapy. Kosh had a joke about that on his new special. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No, I haven't seen that.
He was like, talking about his relationship, and he was like, I hate this new term, gaslighting. He was like, I had to learn what it means. And what it means is you're not allowed to say anything about me because it's basically, what he said was, I'm messing up the joke, but he said it basically means I win the argument. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what it means.
Yeah. And it made sense what he was saying. I was like, that is true.
Yeah.
You know.
Well known what they call iatrogenic effects, meaning whenever a medical procedure actually introduces harm, that's an iatrogenic effect. And we know that, of course, drugs and surgeries always come with, even the life-saving ones can come with some harm. And what people might not know is that therapy comes with these risks as well. I guess the big picture, theme here is that therapy with kids and teens is totally different for therapy with an adult, right? An adult sits down. First of all, an adult makes the decision on their own. I really want to work on this. I'm going to go to a therapist. And you get the patient buy-in, and they're ready to do the hard work of therapy. But a child or teenager is usually strong-armed into therapy, so they don't want to be there in the first place. But more importantly, they can't say as easily to a therapist, listen, I don't really think I think I gave you the wrong impression. I don't think I would call my mom emotionally abusive. Or it's much harder for them to say, listen, I know I was bullied in middle school, but I don't think I have PTSD. It's harder for a kid to say that because they don't have the life experience behind them to know that, and they don't know if they're getting better as easily. An adult can say, I've been seeing this therapist for 3 years. My depression's as bad as it ever was. It's just not working, and move on. Maybe find a different therapist. It's much harder for a teenager to know that.
And there's something about going to a therapist and talking about yourself constantly and your problems constantly that sort of reinforces this self-indulgent.
And that's what can lead depression to get worse, sadness to get worse. As you sit and focus on your pain, if you're not careful, especially with teens and kids, it can make the pain, the worry, the feeling of being harmed worse. And I think that's what if you're a teen or kid who shows up bummed out, or just generally kind of anxious, to a therapist, you have a good shot of having that problem made worse because you're going to sit and talk about your worries regularly. They're not going to say, that exercise is amazing for depression. Study after study. In fact, there have been recent studies showing it's better than antidepressants for a lot of,
1.25%.
I mean, it's amazing, right? Like,
or excuse me, 1.25, like 1 times better.
Right. Dancing is apparently amazing for, low mood. Now, I'm not talking about severe major depressive disorder. Okay. When you have severe chronic depression, you may need to treat it with medication or therapy. But for low mood, sort of mild to moderate depression, exercise turns out to be better. And it doesn't have those side effects.
Yeah.
But let me give you an example of a teenager I talked to. So I talked to this girl, Becca, is what I call her in the book. But she was a high school senior and she had been in therapy since age 6, okay, when her parents divorced.
Wow.
She didn't have any diagnosed mental disorder of any kind, but she had regularly been in therapy because her parents divorced and they said, you got to go to therapy. So I asked her as a high school senior, so what are you working on with your therapist now? And she said to me, my therapist is getting me ready to make friends in college. She's helping me.
Oh, boy.
So we're rehearsing, we're going through my past experiences and we're talking about how to get me ready to make friends in college.
That gives me anxiety just thinking about
Right.
it. Someone coaching me to go make friends. Is
Micromanaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making you feel dependent on them for everything.
Right. Like, oh, I gotta go to my therapist. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't do this without my therapist. I need to work through this thing.
Mhm.
Like you're now conscious of everything you're doing, and you feel like you can't do anything because you're so conscious of it, right? You're hyper sensitive in those ways.
Right. Do you see, this generation feels that it can't do because they've gotten so much oversight and so much needless mental health intervention that they're questioning themselves all the time. They're in their heads all the time.
And what motivated you to write this book? Like, do you have personal experiences with people that are going through this?
Well, 2 things. Like, one is I'm raising 3 kids in this generation. So I wanted to know, like, why was the generation that got the most mental health intervention, the most therapy, the most psych meds, the most interventions in schools, the most therapeutic parenting, why were they in the most distress? And why were they so afraid to grow up?
Crazy.
Yeah. It's like the people that get the most shielded from peanut allergies have the most peanut allergies. Like that.
Yeah. I mean, bro, like what she's talking about, like the exercising and being in your head.
Yeah.
That's your worst enemy. That's where, depression creeps in. But like, y'all know my situation. I went through a divorce and it was rough.
Yeah.
And working out and doing, something physical.
Yeah.
It made me feel better.
Yeah.
And my thing that I did was I created a playlist with like worship music that I like, some Jatan stuff, and it just put me in that zone, where I'm just not even thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just letting everything out.
Yeah.
And it really helped.
Instead of someone bringing you through that you go into a therapist and them just constantly like making you
remember
relive all of that.
Yeah. I mean, just in terms of suicide, like that's how you can base suicide is not going down.
Yeah.
It's going up.
Right.
And if you think about suicide, that's to the point where you feel like you have no hope.
There's no hope at all. Yeah.
And you don't just get there. I mean, you don't just get there from nothing. You know what I mean? And if you think about it, like you're getting beat down mentally every day. You're accepting lies in your mind every day. Right. You're getting to that place. It's warfare.
Yeah.
So it's like you're dying. You're being defeated daily.
Yeah. You're losing ground every day. Yeah.
And
without Jesus, I'm telling you, I would be a mess.
Yeah, giving it all to him, not thinking about.
I would be a mess without Jesus, with all the stuff I've been through in the past. And I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have anything because Jesus is my therapist.
Jesus is my therapist. That sounds like a new worship song. He never gaslights me.
Yeah. But there's a reason why it says our weapons of warfare are not carnal, right?
Yeah.
They're for the pulling down of strongholds, right? That pulls down every lofty thing in our minds, right? That exalts itself against the knowledge of God.
Right.
and bringing it into the obedience. So we're learning we're learning how by the word of God how to bring down these lofty ideas, right? Like Moan said, listening to worship music, getting in that mode, getting his mind into that mode of thinking,
reading the word
instead of these things, because you can go to some dark places if you keep thinking on these things, right? You can go to dark places.
All right, let's keep going.
We shouldn't see that. They should be the picture of wellness. Nobody worried about anybody's mental health more than we worried about their mental health. And yet they're the picture of despair. So I really wanted to know like what was going on with them. And also, of course, I'd written Irreversible Damage, and I knew from that, experience that very often when a young woman would tell a story about when her life went desperately off track, it was with a therapist. And here's the thing. It wasn't necessarily a gender therapist. Most often, it was just your vanilla psychodynamic therapist who was there to talk to an anxious or a little bummed out teen, mildly depressed teen about their bad feelings. And lo and behold, during the course of, regular psychodynamic therapy, they would say, and what are your feelings on gender? And with the therapist, they would go down that route.
I think
leading.
Yep.
They're leading you.
Yep.
Down this route.
But think about it. They're teaching through the institutions that they came from. They teach them these tactics how to. So they're just following protocol.
Yeah.
And they have an interest too. It's monetary.
Absolutely.
Because the insurance company got involved with that.
Yeah.
And so they get paid very, very well for doing that. So they're incentivized to help to keep you there.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Therapists are not incentivized to fix you.
Yeah.
They're incentivized for you to keep coming.
Yeah, she goes into that a little bit.
Like the sex change thing.
Yeah. And like you said, it's an incentive, right? To keep you in a focus and
dependent.
And it's even a power over someone, right?
Yeah.
It's a sense of control. It's a relinquishing of power, right? It's feeling unable. It's the opposite of what God does for you. God enables you, right? That's what grace is.
Yeah.
He gives you an ability.
Yep.
Right? It's so crazy. Like we're seeing it, but it's so hard. When you're religious in terms of you can't make the connection. Like, oh yeah, I'm Pentecostal. Oh yeah, I'm Catholic. Oh yeah, I'm this. But it's like you can't relate God to anything in your life. It's hard to see how everything plays out and is connected to God.
Yeah.
But all these things you're seeing it. There's a difference between counsel and therapy.
Yeah, that's what we said on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, counsel is different than therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More adults are anxious. More adults are suffering from anxiety and depression, at least diagnosed anxiety and depression, now than ever before.
I think adults are absolutely passing on their anxiety to their kids. And that actually we're seeing that in, Jean Twenge came out with this book, Generations. And one of the things she said in it is that boys, even though teenage girls have the worst mental health in general, boys from liberal families had worse mental health than girls from conservative families in terms of anxiety and depression.
So
why should that be? We know the girls are on social media more, right? And boys, that's not their thing, right? They're into video games or whatever. But I think part of the reason is what you said. There are certain families that are passing on anxiety about things like climate change. But I also think it shows that it's in the environment we're giving them. We're not giving kids a healthy life, right? We think that we can give them an unhealthy life and just pour in the mental health resources and remediate. But it doesn't work like that.
So that's an interesting statistic that you were saying that. So conservative families have less depressed kids? Is that what you're saying?
Apparently, boys from boys from liberal families have higher anxiety rates than girls from conservative families.
But above, if you just looked at the norm, more girls generally have anxiety.
Right.
But in conservative families, girls are less anxious than boys from liberal families.
That's right.
His mind is blown. Blown, right? It's like he keeps checking off these boxes of conservatism keeps winning.
Do I have boys?
That's why I'm in Texas right now.
He's like, there's something. Why does conservatism keep winning on all these fronts? Like somehow liberalism, it just seems to be not the way, right?
And I mean, we could speculate as to why. There are lots of proposed reasons for that, but one of the many things that we might, first of all, we know it's in the environment at that point. It's not an organic, whatever these kids are going through, it's not organic.
She said it because you're making your kids anxious about climate change and Black Lives Matter and Trump is gonna deport everybody and did you see you were talking about Robert De Niro on Bill Maher. And he's going on this rant about how if Trump gets elected, he's going to come after all of us. Like, what are you talking about?
Guy who gets 20-some-year-old girl pregnant.
Right.
At
Really?
80.
Speaking of that, people
Yes,
people were showing some thing that he got arrested for in France years ago for connected to underage kids. And they were saying, oh, maybe he will come after you.
Yeah. I mean,
because there is a reason why people go so hard against him.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, what do you got to hide?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So we know it's something we're pouring into their life. And I think one of the things might be that, aside from the fact that parents in conservative families may be more comfortable asserting their authority with kids, and that's an old finding. We've known for generations now
biblical.
that authoritative parenting meaning not cold parenting, not cruel, not unloving,
rules.
But rules. Those kids have better mental health. They're happier and they're more successful in all kinds of ways. Recently,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It's almost like,
But so why though? Like, think about why would that give kids like to have authority, not to be overbearing parents, but
just to have structure and rules.
Yeah, why would that work?
Because it's biblical.
But why?
Because it sets up a framework for kids to grasp. Like, what was the thing we were talking about before we showed this study where someone was breaking down how if you put there's a certain amount of choices if you place in front of people where they just can't make a choice, right? Because they become overwhelmed with choice. It's something like
they don't know how to.
Over 4 or 5 choices or something like that. But if you narrow things down, you give a framework, people can make a choice right away. They can instantly make a choice. They can understand the framework of things.
It's like going to a diner versus Sabrina's
right.
cafe.
Exactly. When you have these big menus, you get overwhelmed. And in kids who live in an environment where there's no rules, there's no real structure, there's a lot of room for anxieties to creep in, not understanding how things work. Like you don't get a sense of stability.
Yeah. When my kids are like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I take stuff away from them. So think about it. I'm bored. I take more.
Yeah.
I take the more stuff
Right.
away from them.
Right.
So now they have less stuff,
Right.
right? And then they stop being bored. I take away the stuff, and then they're like, all right, let's figure it out.
Xbox
Like,
goes out the window.
Right. Yeah.
But so they realize
it's the opposite of what you would think, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm bored. Oh well, let me give you this. This is something you can do.
because you realize, oh, you got too much going on.
Yeah.
You got too many.
You got too many choices.
Too many
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah. You got too many options.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's keep going.
did these studies on these, coping techniques. They taught coping techniques to teenagers, over 1,000 teenagers in Australia. It was called the Wise Teens Program. They talked to, that was the point. It was just to help them with emotional regulation. And it turned out it made kids sadder and more anxious. They measured this. And the reason was regularly ruminating on your bad feelings can make you feel worse.
See, can I say something?
Yeah.
See, this is what I was saying earlier about research.
Yeah.
Because it's done specifically on a certain group of people.
Yeah.
I wish if someone like her would go to like the Amazon or like some tribe and like let's study them.
Study anxiety in
Let's
them.
study them. Let's study them. Let's see. And let's just see how they respond to these things.
That was like the what is a woman when he goes to the tribes asking them.
Yeah, like go but not just there, but like go to like societies are a little bit more upward mobile and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little. So you show the progression of here we are. We were told that
The
once
more
you
privilege you have,
you attain all this.
But she talks about it. It's just I didn't have, I couldn't put everything in there. But she talks about soldiers that are in war and the whole PTSD thing, and how a lot of them don't have PTSD, but it's the therapy that actually pushes them into believing that, right, and it makes it worse for them,
right.
So, and then she talks about the depression, and there was this study done about like the people who actually came out of the depression on top were the kids. It was the ones that the parents went through it, whether they were. It wasn't about the rich kids or the poor. It was about the ones who their parents thrived because they continued to believe. They went through hard times, but they worked it out and
Right.
they accomplish things through those hard times.
Right.
Those kids were the ones who became the successful kids in the next generation.
Wow, that's amazing. The
Yeah.
ones whose parents didn't have a complaining mentality.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Talk to therapists when you do this?
Yeah, a lot of therapists.
Yeah. How many of them agree with you?
So there was a huge split. The academic research psychologists overwhelmingly agreed. They were aware of the literature and they said, yeah, these are bad practices. Here are things we shouldn't be doing with kids. What was interesting is a lot of the clinical therapists were either minimized the risks of therapy or denied that there were any.
Yeah, because they're like, you're coming for my job now.
Yeah.
Does your paper affect my Bentley?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then no.
Right. I don't agree with this at all.
Will I lose my beach house?
Right.
Yes. Okay, then this is complete crap.
Isn't that like Jiffy Lube? Like when you tell them, you don't need to change your oil that much. Well, it's their business to change oil.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Also, the incentive is for therapists to treat the least sick for the longest period of time.
We
That's
talked
the
about
incentive.
that.
Because you don't want the schizophrenic patient who really needs you.
Right.
They're really hard to treat.
Almost impossible.
And you may
Almost
die.
impossible,
Yeah,
right? You
right.
don't want the bipolar patient.
Right.
Some people will refuse to see those patients. But a teenager with a little social anxiety, parent pays on time, they're not getting violent in your session.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the easy jobs.
Because guess what? You know what's crazy? I have a friend who's a corrections officer. They
Yeah.
actually need therapy. None of them want to go there. Help those people. And they clearly need help.
Right.
But that little boy that think he's a girl. Come on in.
Right. They're not rounding up these prisoners like let's see what's
I
going
want
on.
to help with my
Yeah.
degree.
It's- my brother-in-law actually goes and deals with that stuff.
Yeah.
'Cause he's a counselor.
Yeah.
And he goes to prisons. That's like one of his part-time jobs.
Wow.
And dude, some of the stories he tells me, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
But those are actually the people that need it.
Need it.
Yeah.
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 Wow. I never really considered that until your book. Until I heard the title of your book and I read
Joe's mind.
the
Joe's mind's been blown
He's
multiple
blown.
times in this interview. Yeah.
synopsis of it. I never really considered it. I never considered that thinking about your problems all the
Yeah.
time and talking about your problems all the time literally make the problems grow.
That's right. I mean, it's the number one symptom of depression
Yeah, that's
is
a
what they
great
call
point.
rumination, this pathological obsessing over your pain.
Yeah.
That's why stuff like exercise, that's one of the reasons, aside from chemical reasons, one of the reasons that doing anything, that running errands is good for your mental health, getting out of your house and accomplishing anything
Yeah.
is good for you. But
Praising
sitting around
God.
talking
Yeah.
and thinking about your problems, that's a bad habit. And the best cognitive behavioral therapists and others,
Yeah.
the dialectical behavioral therapists, the ones who do really well with depression, the first thing they do is try to break that that bad pattern.
So,
Recently did the
Isn't it interesting how in COVID they told us to stay in houses?
Stay in houses.
Yes.
People
Isolate from people.
TikTok became that was like the
Yeah.
height of TikTok,
Yep.
where people went on,
Yep.
talked about their problems. They started to self-diagnose themselves.
Yeah.
They
All
started
the
all
identities
that-
emerged.
TikTok blew up on
Yep.
Yep.
during
Yep.
COVID. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's
It was more
interesting.
depression than anything else.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny because the Bible does say that study to show yourself approved,
Yeah.
renewing your mind.
Right.
Like it's really that. It's
Right. Yeah, all this stuff is biblical. It's like don't sit there and focus on the negative. We talked about that on stage. The part of the brain that processes anxiety is the same part that processes gratefulness. If you stay in that anxiety at all times and that worry and that pain and that negativity, you're going to just continue to manifest that in your life.
Yeah.
And going back to the rules things, even in terms of like all throughout the Bible, it talks about that how good your commandments are, how good your rules are, your laws, like how beautiful your laws are, right? Jesus says, if you love me, you keep my commandments, right?
Yeah.
So all these things, why? Because it's not about you understanding them. It's about them becoming a guard for you, a preventative measure for you, to where now you got something, you might not get it yet, but you know you can trust in him. So he told me if I do these things, I'll be good, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we do with our kids. So we brought this up earlier, like why is it so important? Why does that make sense that if they have these rules, it's because if we give them these boundaries, they have safety within those boundaries.
Yeah.
They don't have to think about when you're thinking so much and you don't get it and you're trying to wrap your head around something, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So if we can give them the space to grow into the things that they don't understand, That's more loving and more caring, right? And that's what boundaries do. We give our kids boundaries and we tell them, you have to do these things. But you're going to come into greater things. You'll be able to do those things you want to do later, but you have to understand them. You can't do it now.
Yeah.
Right?
Is because when you said that, I remember when I told you guys, you can borrow my car, but don't take anybody in the car.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And what did they do?
And we took people in the car.
And then they got into a car accident.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then their friends have to get out and act like there was a bust up, and you're like, "There ain't no sign here." No, I don't.
But again, so learning that, like, our kids understanding, like, you talk to them about sex now, but you don't have to go all in.
Right,
obviously,
right.
Like, this isn't for you. It will be in a certain time. But right now, trust in what I'm saying, right? There's a reason for it, and you can explain to them to the capacity that they'll be able to understand it, right?
Yeah.
But you can't give them everything, because they can't understand everything. But that's the point where they have to trust you, just like we have to trust God, right? And we learn that trust because we love them. Look, I want to give you everything. But you can't have everything because you can't be responsible for everything.
Yeah.
So now I have to hold things back for you, but you can grow into those things, and I'm going to give them to you.
I mean, that's the story of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
And we ourselves too. Sometimes we don't explain. We know the seasons of nature, but we don't explain the seasons of life.
Right.
Which is like you're leaving one stage and you go into the next, and as you go, I'm gonna give you more.
Yeah.
I give you more room, like you said. Like sex is that's for a season.
Yeah.
But it's under these parameters.
Yep.
And it's meant to actually be to help you, so it's more fulfilling. So
Yep.
you're not trapped by it.
Yep.
You know. So there's a lot of things, like, I think. Well, I would call this as pseudo intellectualism. You know, it's you going to see a guru, and like you said, like, really what's happening too. A part of this is most people that are they have children, they damage them, but a lot of those children that are involved in this will never have families.
Yeah.
So they never break out of it. They always need the therapist, because you know there's a saying that when you're single, you're a liberal,
Yeah.
and when you have kids, you slowly become conservative.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody, but for the most part, why? Why do you become conservative?
'Cause
Because
now you have
everything that
something
was
to conserve.
nonsense to you
Yeah.
now all of a sudden makes sense. Why?
Right.
Because it's you realize you have a purpose. Most people, not everybody. The purpose is to protect your children and make sure they're being raised in a safe environment. And all of a sudden, you care about school board meetings, and you care about who's teaching them and what are they talking about.
Yeah.
And that's not just a Christian thing. We saw it with the Iranians in L.A.
Yeah.
Is it Iranians? Armenians.
Armenians,
in L.A. We see it with other communities who are like, whoa, what's going on here? Why is that? Because they're raising a family and they understand that there's an influence that's happening, and someone is trying to influence your children.
Yep.
And they're trying to take authority from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So many boys, so many 20-year-olds / 30-year-olds can't find a woman, right? So many 20-year-olds / 30-year-old women can't find a man, right? There's this issue going on, right?
It's a huge problem.
Because they're looking in the wrong way. They're focused on the wrong things, right?
Yeah.
And then you get depressed. That's the deception.
Right.
Get you focused on the wrong things, and then you're going to always have the wrong outcomes.
Yeah. And then the solution they're giving them is to go to therapy. Do the work.
Yeah.
Work on yourself. Mental health. You're never going to find the man if you can't work on yourself and do the work.
Right.
So they're sending them to therapy to help them fix the problem that all this is causing anyway.
So you're getting false hopes.
Yeah.
Right? You're moving in a false faith, right? Because you're being cared for falsely with a false love.
Right.
Right? So none of these things are going to pan out. But what true love does is love perfects you, right? When God loves us, it perfects us. Perfect love casts out all fear. So then what does he do? where we had fear, now we have hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
We have hope now. So now if I trust you, I don't got to worry about that thing that I was worrying about before.
Yeah.
Or I'm learning less and less to worry about those things. How many people, I just want to be married. I just want to be married. Well, if that's what your focus is on, you're worrying about it. It becomes the thing that controls you. Because now you're going to be looking for those people who you think have the answers. You're focused in the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you focus on the whole, you don't know what to do. So now it's like, okay, well, it just reminds me of like Karate Kid. You know what I mean? Like Waxo, like he wants to be this fighter, right? Yeah. But he's telling him to do these other things, and he doesn't see how that lines up. Like, wash my car,
right?
Paint my fence,
yeah.
And he's not understanding, like, how does this make any sense of me becoming this fighter?
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he even says that to him at some point. He's like, why am I doing this?
Right.
You're not teaching me anything how to fight.
Right.
And then he's like,
wax on.
He's like, do wax on, wax off.
Right.
And he's like blocking all his punches without even thinking about it. So funny.
But one of the biggest things, especially one thing that I think you can take away from Japanese culture is that the principle of honor.
Yeah.
Right.
Honor, yeah.
Of course, it can be twisted, but
to a fault.
Yeah.
But like anything, right?
Like
you
they
can
have
put
the
too much
suicide culture in the world.
Yeah, you can. Well, it's something else
Yeah,
now, right?
yeah.
But honor, anything can be twisted, right?
Yeah.
It can be. You can be so honorable that you'll kill yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what the samurais did,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
They cared about honor. So again,
shame, because it's tied to shame.
You don't want the shame, so you stay honorable, so you do these things. So that's a perversion, right? But my point is with honor, if you're looking to honor your fathers, you're thinking about where they came from and the things that they got. Where did those things come from?
Right.
And to me, it always leads you back to God. Like I can just see, like Japanese, where did those things come from? Where they even honored in that way? How did it get perverted? Right. It strayed away from.
Yeah, they're branches from a tree.
Right.
Right.
And when you go back to the point where it started from, it's going to make more sense to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we can always go back to those places, but you can look at something if you know where it came from, and you can say, "Yeah, that's good." It's just got to be twisted back a little bit, right? And then you start to realize when you know God, you can see those things. But if you don't trust God, how are you ever going to know Him, really?
Yeah.
And if you don't know Him, how are you going to relate these things that are happening in the world back to Him? You can't.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's wrap it up there, guys. We got through everything. That was a good episode. I appreciate. Yep. I appreciate everybody for watching. Shout out to everybody on Rumble who was watching. Shout out to Jordan over there. I see you. Listen, guys, if you want to support what we do, if you want to support these conversations, this type of stuff, because it is important to share these things with the world and just show some people who are willing to talk about these topics and not only have just sports conversations and women and cars and clothes and all that stuff, music, the menial things. So if you want to support that, go to our Patreon, sign up to become a member, support what we do. It really goes a long way for us. We appreciate it. It helps us keep doing this. Patreon.com/youngliontv. Sign up over there, and we are going to be constantly doing new stuff. All of our Patreon members usually come and meet up with us at the shows and stuff like that. So sign up over there. Also, if you want to support just by hitting us on the Cash App, that's $YoungLionTV on Cash App. You can hit us over there. And again, the merch is on the link in the description. You can get the merch, and go to Jatan.com for music and merch over there as well. Thank you to my mom for holding us down over there, producing so beautifully. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Great conversation. We'll see you guys next week, man. Share the video, hit the like button on the way out. Peace.
Young Lion, go live, yeah. Young Lion, you rich, yeah. This kingdom has room, yeah. Go and fight.